Maya Stone stood at the viewing window of the space station and watched the stars. She had seen many star systems during her years as a ship commander, but this one felt different. Something was wrong here, though she could not put her finger on what it was. The meeting room behind her buzzed with quiet conversation. Her team was getting ready for the most important talk of their careers. They were here to discuss mining rights with the Kithrin Collective, a group of 4 alien races that controlled this part of space. If the talks went well, Earth would get access to rare metals that could change everything for humanity. Commander Stone, Jake Torres called from across the room. He was the communications expert on her team, a young man with quick eyes and an even quicker mind. The translators are ready. We can start whenever you give the word. Maya turned away from the window. Her team looked nervous, and she could not blame them. This was the first time humans had been invited to negotiate with the Kithrin Collective. Most alien races saw humans as dangerous because they came from Earth, which aliens called a death world. Earth was supposedly too harsh for normal life to exist there. "How are you feeling, Lisa?" Maya asked the security officer. Lisa Grant was tough as nails and had served with Maya for 3 years. If anyone could handle alien politics, it was Lisa. "Ready for anything, Commander," Lisa replied. She checked her weapon for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. "Though I still think bringing only 1 security officer was a mistake." "The Kithrins requested a small team," Maya reminded her. "They said too many humans would make them nervous." Dr. Alex Carter looked up from his datapad. The xenobiologist had studied alien cultures for most of his adult life, but this was his first real meeting with non-human intelligence. "According to my research, the Kithrins are peaceful traders. They have never been known to use violence in negotiations." Maya nodded, but the feeling in her gut would not go away. She had learned to trust her instincts during her military service. Those instincts had kept her alive through 3 different wars and countless dangerous missions. Door to the meeting room opened with a soft hiss. 3 Kithrin beings entered, moving with strange, flowing steps. They were tall and thin, almost like living crystal sculptures. Their skin looked like smooth glass that caught and bent the light in beautiful ways. Each Kithrin had 4 arms and moved them in graceful patterns as they walked. "Welcome, humans," the lead Kithrin said through the translator device. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I am Velkana, speaker for the collective. These are my advisors, Mortooth and Zilvana." Maya stepped forward and offered her hand in the human greeting gesture. The Kithrin looked at her hand for a long moment before extending one of its 4 arms to touch her fingers briefly. "I am Commander Maya Stone of the United Earth Space Force," she said. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." The introductions continued as the rest of her team was presented to the aliens. Maya watched carefully as each Kithrin reacted to her people. They seemed especially interested in Lisa, studying her weapons and equipment with what looked like concern. "Please sit." Velkana gestured to chairs that had been made specially for human bodies. "We have much to discuss." The negotiations began smoothly. The Kithrin spoke about the mining rights Earth wanted and the resources humanity could offer in trade. Maya presented Earth's proposal, which included technology sharing and mutual defense agreements. But as the hours passed, Maya noticed strange things. The 3 Kithrins kept looking at each other in ways that seemed like silent communication. Sometimes they would pause mid-sentence and stare at nothing for several seconds. Their 4 arms moved in patterns that seemed too organized to be random. "Commander," Jake whispered during a break in the talks, "I am picking up some odd readings from the translator. There are conversation channels open that we are not hearing." Maya felt her stomach tighten. "What kind of conversations?" "I cannot tell. The language is too complex for our system to handle. But they are definitely talking to each other, without us knowing. When the talks resumed, Velkhana seemed different, more nervous, more careful with its words. "Commander Stone," it said, "we must ask you about human ... capabilities." "What do you mean?" Maya asked. "Your species comes from what we call a death world. We have heard stories about human strength and endurance. Are these stories true?" Maya exchanged glances with her team. This was not the direction they had expected the conversation to take. Humans have adapted to Earth's environment over millions of years. We may be stronger or tougher than some species, but we are not superhuman. Not superhuman, Mortith repeated slowly, but more than most species could survive. "I suppose so," Maya said carefully. "But what does this have to do with mining?" "Rights?" Velkhana moved all four arms in what Maya was beginning to recognize as an expression of uncertainty. "The collective has concerns about human expansion into this region of space. Your species has a reputation for ... adaptability." The room fell silent. Maya felt the hair on the back of her neck stand up. This was not a trade negotiation anymore. This was something else entirely. "I think there has been a misunderstanding," Maya said slowly. "Earth seeks peaceful trade relationships. We have no interest in expansion or conquest." "Perhaps," Zilvana spoke for the first time, "but intentions can change. Capabilities cannot be taken away." Lisa's hand moved closer to her weapon. Jake began backing up his data files on his portable device. Alex looked confused and frightened. "I think we need to take a break," Maya said, standing slowly. "Perhaps we can continue these discussions tomorrow, after everyone has had time to think." "Yes," Velkhana agreed too quickly. "A break would be wise." "Please, Commander Stone, would you come with me to see our station's observation deck? The view of the nebula is quite beautiful from there." Maya hesitated. Every instinct she had was screaming danger, but she could not refuse without causing an incident. "Of course." She followed Velkhana out of the meeting room and down a corridor lined with windows. The observation deck was a large chamber with transparent walls that offered a full view of space. The nebula Velkhana had mentioned stretched across the sky like a cloud of glowing gas. "Beautiful," Maya said, though she was not really looking at the view. She was watching the reflections in the transparent walls, counting the number of figures moving behind her. "Commander Stone," Velkhana said softly, "I am sorry." Maya spun around just as 3 Kithran guards stepped into the chamber, their plasma rifles already raised and aimed. She had no time to draw her weapon, no time to call for help, no time to move. The 3 rifles fired at exactly the same moment. Maya saw the energy bolts racing toward her like small suns. She felt them hit her chest, one after another, burning. Through her armor and into her body. The force of the impacts threw her backward through the transparent wall. She crashed through the barrier and fell into the next chamber as alarms began wailing throughout the station. As consciousness faded, Maya heard Velkhana speaking to someone over a communication device. "It is done. The Deathworlder is eliminated. Begin Phase 2. Pain was the first thing Maya felt when she woke up. It burned through her chest like fire, making it hard to breathe. She tried to move and discovered that even small movements sent waves of agony through her body. She was lying on a cold metal floor in a dark room. Emergency lighting cast red shadows on the walls around her. The air smelled of burned metal and ozone from the energy weapons that had hit. Maya tried to remember what had happened. The meeting with the Kitharans, the walk to the observation deck, the 3 guards with their weapons raised, the plasma bolts hitting her chest. She should be dead. She knew she should be dead. Plasma rifles were designed to kill instantly by burning through flesh and bone. No living being was supposed to survive a direct hit from 1 plasma rifle, let alone 3. But she was alive. Maya slowly lifted her head and looked down at her chest. Her military armor had been melted and twisted by the energy impacts. Through the holes in the armor, she could see her clothes were burned away, revealing the skin underneath. What she saw made no sense. There were 3 burn marks on her chest where the plasma bolts had hit. They were red and painful, but they were not the deep, killing wounds she expected. Instead, they looked like bad sunburns that were already starting to heal. She touched one of the burns carefully and felt warm skin instead of the charred flesh that should have been there. A burn was tender, but not dangerous. As she watched, the redness seemed to be fading slightly. Maya sat up slowly, fighting through the pain. She was in some kind of storage room filled with boxes and equipment. The transparent wall she had crashed through was completely destroyed, and pieces of it were scattered around the floor, but her communication device was damaged, but still working. She tried to contact her team, but all she got was static. Either the device was too badly damaged, or someone was blocking the signals. Maya stood up carefully and took inventory of her injuries. Besides the 3 burns on her chest, she had cuts and bruises from crashing through the wall. Her left arm felt like it might be broken, and she had a bad headache. But she was alive and able to move. She should not be alive. The thought kept running through her mind. Plasma weapons were specifically designed to kill any known life form instantly. The fact that she had survived 3 direct hits was impossible according to everything she knew about alien technology. Maya found a first aid kit in one of the storage boxes and began treating her wounds. As she cleaned the burns on her chest, she noticed something strange. The damaged skin was healing faster than it should. She could actually see the burn marks getting smaller and less red as she watched. Her body temperature was higher than normal, and she could feel her heart beating faster than usual. It was as if her body was working overtime to repair the damage from the plasma weapons. Maya had heard stories about humans doing impossible things under extreme stress. Mothers lifting cars to save their children. Soldiers surviving wounds that should have killed them. But she had never experienced anything like this herself. As she bandaged her injuries, Maya began to think about what had happened. The Kitharans had planned this from the beginning. The meeting about mining rights was just a trap to get humans onto their station. They wanted to test human durability and then eliminate any witnesses. But why? What were they so afraid of? Maya remembered the questions Velkhana had asked about human capabilities. The Kitharans were worried about humans expanding into their territory. They saw humans as a threat that needed to be removed before it became too powerful. The problem was, they had underestimated what humans could survive. Maya finished treating her wounds and began exploring the room. There was an access panel on one wall that controlled the chamber's environmental systems. She managed to get it open and found a connection to the station's computer network. Using her basic knowledge of alien computer systems, Maya accessed the station's internal communication channels. What she found made her blood run cold. Her team was not being taken back to their ship as promised. Instead, they were being moved to detention cells in the station's security section. The Kitharans planned to interrogate them and then eliminate them as witnesses to the attack on Maya. Maya also discovered that this was not the first time the Kitharans had done something like this. There were records of other species being invited to the station for negotiations, only to be tested and eliminated if they were considered too dangerous. The Kitharan Collective had appointed themselves as guardians of galactic security. They decided which species were allowed to develop and which ones needed to be destroyed before they became a threat. Humans had been marked for elimination. Maya closed the computer panel and began planning her next move. She needed to rescue her team and get them off the station. But first, she needed to understand what was happening to her body. The burns on her chest were now barely visible. The broken bone in her arm had stopped hurting, and when she moved it carefully, it seemed to be healing. Her headache was gone, and she felt stronger than she had before the attack. Maya looked at her reflection in a piece of broken glass from the transparent wall. Her eyes seemed brighter, and her skin had a healthy glow despite the recent trauma. She looked like someone who had just recovered from a good workout, not someone who had been shot 3 times with plasma weapons. Whatever was happening to her, it was not normal human healing. This was something else. Something that the Kitherans had not expected when they planned their attack. Maya began searching through the storage room for anything that could help her. She found tools, spare parts for station equipment, and some basic supplies. But most importantly, she found a maintenance access tunnel that led to other parts of the station. The tunnel was small and dark, but it would allow her to move around the station without being detected. Maya gathered the tools and supplies she needed and prepared to enter the tunnel. Before she left, she took one last look at the burns on her chest. They were now just faint marks on her skin, almost invisible. In a few more hours, they would probably be gone completely. Maya smiled for the first time since the attack. The Kitherans thought they had eliminated the human threat, but they had only made it stronger. She entered the maintenance tunnel and began crawling toward the security section where her team was being held. As she moved through the narrow space, Maya could feel her body continuing to change. Her muscles felt stronger, her reflexes were faster, and her senses seemed sharper. The plasma weapons that were supposed to kill her had triggered something in her body, some kind of survival response that went beyond normal human capabilities. Maya did not understand what was happening to her, but she knew one thing for certain. The Kitherans had made a serious mistake when they decided to test human limits. We're about to learn that humans were much more dangerous than they had imagined. Maya crawled through the maintenance tunnels for what felt like hours. The narrow passages were dark and filled with the sounds of the station's machinery. Pipes and cables ran along the walls, carrying power and life support to different sections of the station. Her body continued to change as she moved. The burns on her chest had completely disappeared, leaving only smooth skin behind. The break in her arm had healed so completely that she could not tell which arm had been injured. Most strange of all, she felt stronger and more alert than she had ever felt in her life. Maya reached a junction in the tunnel system and checked the station map she had memorized from the computer terminal. According to the layout, she was now directly under the security section where her team was being held. She found an access panel and carefully opened it. Through the small opening, she could see a corridor lined with detention cells. Kitherin. Guards walked back and forth, their 4 arms moving in the patterns she now recognized as their form of communication. Maya counted 6 guards in the corridor, too many to fight directly, even with her enhanced condition. She needed a better plan. She closed the access panel and continued through the tunnels until she found the station's main power distribution center. The room was filled with massive generators and control systems that provided energy to the entire station. Maya studied the control panels carefully. Her technical training had taught her how to work with alien technology, but this was more complex than anything she had seen before. Still, energy systems followed basic rules no matter what species built them. She began making small adjustments to the power flow. Nothing that would damage the station or hurt anyone, but enough to create distractions. Maya rerouted power from non-essential systems and caused minor failures in the station's environmental controls. The temperature in some sections began to rise. Lights flickered in others. The air recycling system started making strange noises. To the Kitherans, it would look like random system failures, but Maya was creating a pattern that would draw the guards away from the detention area. As she worked, Maya noticed that her hands were steadier than before, and her fingers moved with greater precision. She could see better in the dim light of the power center, and her hearing was sharp enough to detect the footsteps of guards several corridors away. Whatever was happening to her body, it was still progressing. She was becoming something more than human, though she did not understand what that meant. Maya finished her work on the power systems and returned to the maintenance tunnels. She made her way back to the security section and watched through the access panel as her plan took effect. Alarms began sounding throughout the station as the environmental failures she had caused were detected. The Kithran guards in the detention area received orders through their communication devices and began leaving their posts to investigate the problems. Soon, only 2 guards remained in the corridor. Maya waited until they were both facing away from her position, then quietly opened the access panel and slipped into the corridor. She moved silently toward the guards, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to avoid making any sound. Maya had been trained in hand-to-hand combat during her military service, but now her movements felt different. Faster, more precise, more powerful. The first guard turned round just as Maya reached him. She struck him in the center of his crystalline body with the palm of her hand. The impact sent him flying backward into the wall, where he slumped to the floor unconscious. The second guard spun around and reached for his weapon, but Maya was already moving. She grabbed his weapon arm and twisted it gently. The guard dropped his plasma rifle and fell to his knees, making sounds that she assumed were expressions of pain. Maya picked up both plasma rifles and checked the charges. They were fully loaded and ready to fire. She had handled alien weapons before, but these felt different in her hands. Lighter, easier to control, as if her enhanced condition made her naturally compatible with the technology. She moved quickly to the detention cells and found her team. Jake was in the first cell, pacing back and forth with worry. Lisa was in the second cell, examining the lock mechanism with professional interest. Alex was in the third cell, sitting quietly and making notes in a small journal. "Commander," Jake shouted when he saw her. "We thought you were dead. We saw you get shot and fall through that wall." Maya worked on the lock to Jake's cell. Her enhanced strength made it easy to tear the locking mechanism apart with her bare hands. "I survived," she said simply. "Are you hurt?" "No, but Maya, you look different," Jake said as he stepped out of his cell. "Your eyes are ... brighter somehow, and you seem taller." Maya moved to Lisa's cell and destroyed that lock as well. "I feel different too. The plasma weapons did something to me. I think they triggered some kind of survival response." Lisa emerged from her cell and immediately picked up one of the plasma rifles Maya had taken from the guards. "Enhanced healing? Increased strength? That would explain how you survived 3 direct hits." "Something like that," Maya agreed as she freed Alex from the third cell. "But I think it's more than just healing. I think I'm adapting to the weapons that were used against me." Alex looked at her with the fascination of a scientist studying a new discovery. Accelerated evolution in response to environmental pressures. "It's theoretically possible, but I've never seen anything like it." "We can discuss the science later," Maya said. "Right now we need to get off this station. The Kitharans plan to eliminate all of us from the beginning. This was never about mining rights." She led her team through the corridors, following the route she had memorized during her time in the maintenance tunnels. The station was in chaos due to the system failures she had caused, and most of the guards were busy dealing with the emergencies. But as they moved toward the docking bay where their ship was waiting, Maya began to sense something wrong. Her enhanced hearing picked up the sound of many footsteps moving in organized patterns. Her improved vision caught glimpses of movement in the shadows. "They're surrounding us," she said quietly to her team. "There are at least 20 guards moving to cut off our escape route." Lisa checked her weapon and looked around the corridor they were in. "Can we fight our way through?" "Maybe." Maya said. But I have a better idea. She led them to a maintenance hatch that opened into the station's outer hall. The area beyond the hatch was a service corridor that ran along the outside of the station, protected by a transparent barrier that allowed workers to maintain the station's exterior systems. The service corridor will take us directly to the docking bay, Maya explained. We can avoid the guards completely. Alex looked through the transparent barrier at the stars beyond. But that's open space out there. If the barrier fails, we'll be exposed to vacuum. The barrier is designed to handle meteor strikes, Maya said. It should be safe. They entered the service corridor and began moving toward the docking bay. Mia led the way, her enhanced senses alert for any signs of danger. The corridor was narrow and dimly lit, but it offered a clear path to their destination. Halfway to the docking bay, they encountered a patrol of Kithaeron guards who were checking the service corridors. Maya saw them first and signaled her team to take cover behind some maintenance equipment. There were 4 guards, all armed with plasma rifles. Too many to fight in the narrow corridor without risking injury to her team. Maya made a decision that surprised even herself. She stepped out from behind cover and walked directly toward the guards. "Surrender now," she called out in a voice that was deeper and more commanding than her normal speaking voice. "You cannot stop us." The guards raised their weapons and fired. 4 plasma bolts struck Maya in quick succession, hitting her chest, arms, and legs. The energy impacts should have killed her instantly. Instead, Maya kept walking. The plasma bolts left scorch marks on her clothes, but did no real damage to her body. She could feel her skin absorbing the energy and converting it into something else, something that made her feel even stronger. The guards stared in shock as their most powerful weapons failed to even slow her down. Maya reached them and gently took their weapons away. She did not hurt them, but her touch was firm enough to make it clear that resistance was useless. "How is this possible?" one of the guards whispered through his translator. Maya looked at him with eyes that now glowed with a faint inner light. "You wanted to test human limits," she said. "Now you know what happens when you push a human too far." She led her team past the stunned guards and continued toward the docking bay. Behind them, she could hear the guards speaking rapidly to each other in their native language. She could sense their fear and confusion. The Kithaerons had created something they did not understand. They had tried to eliminate a threat and instead had made it stronger. Maya did not know what she was becoming, but she knew that she was no longer entirely human, and that was just the beginning. Word of Maya's survival spread through the Kithaeron station like wildfire. Reports came in from security teams about a human who could not be stopped by their weapons. Guards who had seen her walk through plasma rifle fire without taking damage were spreading stories that grew more incredible with each telling. Velkhana stood in the station's command center, watching security footage of Maya's movement through the corridors. The recording showed her leading her team toward the docking bay, moving with confidence and speed that seemed impossible for someone who had been shot multiple times. "This cannot be accurate," Velkhana said to the other Kithaeron leaders. "The recordings must be damaged." "The recordings are fine," Mortith replied, all 4 of his arms moving in patterns of deep concern. "I have checked them myself. The human female has somehow become immune to our weapons." Zilvana studied the readings from the station's sensors. Her body temperature is elevated beyond normal human ranges. Her muscle density appears to be increasing. And look at this. Her brain activity is showing patterns we have never seen before. "How is this possible?" Velkhana demanded. "Our plasma weapons are designed to destroy any known form of organic matter. Nothing can survive direct hits from multiple rifles." "Perhaps," Mortith said slowly, "we did not understand humans as well as we thought. Perhaps their Deathworld origins gave them capabilities we never imagined." Maya and her team reached the docking bay to find it sealed and heavily guarded. 20 Kitharan soldiers stood between them and their ship, all armed, with the most powerful weapons the station had available. Energy barriers blocked the entrances, and automated defense systems tracked their movements. "They really don't want us to leave," Jake observed, checking his communication equipment. "I'm still getting interference on all channels. Someone is jamming our signals to prevent us from calling for help." Lisa examined the defensive positions with a tactical eye. "Those energy barriers will be tough to break through. And 20 guards with heavy weapons. Even with your new abilities, Maya, this is going to be difficult." Alex was studying Maya with growing amazement. "Commander, your physical changes are accelerating. Your bone structure is subtly different than it was an hour ago. Your muscle definition has increased significantly. And your eyes." "What about my eyes?" Maya asked. "They're glowing," Alex said quietly. "Not bright, but there's definitely light coming from them. It's like your body is generating its own energy." Maya looked at her reflection in a piece of polished metal on the wall. Alex was right. Her eyes now had a faint but noticeable glow, and her entire appearance had changed. She looked stronger, more defined, more evolved. The plasma weapons triggered something in my genetics, she realized. Some kind of adaptive response that was built into human biology but never activated under normal conditions. Survival evolution, Alex breathed. Accelerated adaptation to environmental threats. "Maya, if this is what I think it is, you're not just healing from the weapon attacks. You're evolving to become immune to them, and probably to other threats as well," Maya added. She could feel changes happening throughout her body. Her reflexes were faster, her strength was greater, and her senses were becoming incredibly sharp. She could hear conversations happening in distant parts of the station and smell the fear sense that the Kitharan guards were producing. "Commander," Jake said, pointing to his communication device, "I'm picking up transmissions from the Kitharan Command Center. They're calling for reinforcements from other stations, and they're sending reports about you to the collective leadership." Maya listened carefully and discovered that her enhanced hearing could actually understand some of the Kitharan language without the translator. They were describing her as an evolutionary anomaly and a Category 5 threat to galactic stability. "They're planning to destroy this entire station to prevent us from escaping," she told her team. "They would rather kill everyone here than let word of my survival reach Earth." "Then we need to move now," Lisa said, checking her weapon, "before they bring in enough firepower to level this place." Maya studied the defensive positions, blocking their path to the ship. The 20 guards were well positioned and heavily armed, but she was no longer thinking like a normal human. Her enhanced mind was calculating angles, timing, and probabilities. With computer-like precision. "Stay here," she told her team. "I'm going to clear the way." "Maya, wait," Jake started to protest, but she was already moving. Maya walked directly toward the energy barriers, making no attempt to hide or use cover. The Kitharan guards saw her coming and immediately opened fire. Dozens of plasma bolts struck her from multiple directions, creating a light show that filled the docking bay with brilliant energy. When the firing stopped and the energy dissipated, Maya was still walking forward. Her clothes were burned and torn, but her skin showed no damage at all. In fact, she looked healthier and stronger than before the attack. "Impossible," one of the guards whispered through his translator. Maya reached the first energy barrier and placed her hands against it. The barrier was designed to stop projectiles and energy weapons, but it had never been tested against someone who could absorb and redirect plasma energy. She pushed against the barrier, and it began to flicker and fade. The energy that powered it was being drawn into her body, making her glow brighter as she absorbed it. The barrier collapsed, and Maya stepped through. The guards fired again, but this time their weapons seemed to have less effect. Maya was adapting to their energy signatures, becoming more resistant with each shot. She moved through the defensive positions like a force of nature. Maya did not hurt any of the guards, but she disabled their weapons and equipment with casual ease. Metal bent under her touch, and energy systems failed when she came near them. In less than 5 minutes, she had cleared a path to their ship. The 20 guards stood around in shock, their weapons destroyed and their defenses useless. Maya waved for her team to join her. As they ran toward their ship, she could hear alarms sounding throughout the station. The Kithaeron command staff was beginning to panic as they realized that their most powerful weapons were useless against her. "Maya," Alex said as they reached their ship, "I need to document what's happening to you. This could be the most important scientific discovery in human history." "Later," Maya replied, her voice now noticeably deeper and more resonant than it had been. "Right now we need to get out of here before they do something desperate." They boarded their ship and began the startup sequence. Jake worked frantically to clear the communication jamming so they could send the message to Earth. Lisa prepared the ship's defensive systems in case they were attacked during their escape. As their ship moved away from the station, Maya looked back at the Kithaeron facility. She could see through the ship's hull as if it were transparent, another new ability that was developing. Inside the station, she saw hundreds of Kithaeron beings moving in panic as their leaders tried to decide what to do about the human who could not be killed. "Commander," Jake said, "I've cleared the jamming. We can send messages again." "What should I tell Earth Command?" Maya thought about that question. How could she explain what had happened to her? How could she describe the changes that were still progressing through her body and mind? "Tell them we made contact with the Kithaeron Collective," she said finally. "Tell them the negotiations were educational, and tell them to prepare for the possibility that humanity might be different than we thought." As their ship accelerated away from the station, Maya felt the final stages of her transformation beginning. She was no longer the same person who had walked into that meeting room. She was something new, something that had never existed before, and she was just the beginning. Every human carried the same genetic potential that had been activated in her. The Kithaerons had tried to eliminate humanity as a threat, but instead they had shown humanity what it could become. The galaxy was about to learn that there were consequences to attacking a Deathworlder, consequences that no one had imagined possible. The journey back to Earth took 12 days. During those 12 days, Maya's transformation completed itself in ways that amazed and sometimes frightened her team. By the time they reached Earth's solar system, she had become something that was recognizably human, but clearly evolved beyond normal human limits. Her physical appearance had stabilized into home, something that looked like the next step in human evolution. She was taller, stronger, and moved with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. Her eyes now glowed with a steady inner light, and her skin had a subtle metallic sheen that reflected energy in interesting ways. Most remarkably, she had developed the ability to interface directly with technology. Maya could control their ship's systems with thought alone, and her understanding of alien technology had expanded to an incredible degree. She could read energy signatures, detect electromagnetic fields, and see across a much wider spectrum of light than normal humans. "The changes are still progressing," Alex reported as he completed his latest examination of Maya. "Your cellular structure is unlike anything in human medical records. Your bones are denser than steel, but somehow still flexible. Your muscles generate more power per gram than any known biological tissue. And your nervous system? Maya, your brain is operating at levels that should be impossible." "I can feel it," Maya said, looking out at the stars through the ship's viewport. "I can sense things that I never noticed before." Energy flows, gravitational fields, even the thoughts of other living beings when they're close enough. Jake finished his latest communication with Earth Command and turned to face her. They want to quarantine you when we arrive. Medical examination, psychological evaluation, the full treatment. They're scared, Maya. They should be scared, Lisa said from her position at the weapons console. Not of Maya, but of what the Kitherans tried to do. This was an assassination attempt on human diplomats. That's an act of war. Maya shook her head. No, Lisa. War is exactly what they want us to choose. The Kitherans are afraid of human potential, and if we respond with violence, we prove their point. Then what do you suggest? Jake asked. They tried to kill us. They would have succeeded if not for your transformation. Maya was quiet for a long moment, feeling the energy flows of the ship around her and sensing the approaching presence of Earth. We show them what humans really are. Not conquerors or destroyers, but survivors who become stronger when threatened. When they reached Earth, Maya's arrival caused a sensation that rippled through every level of human government and military command. The medical teams that examined her could barely believe their readings. The scientists who studied her transformation worked around the clock to understand what had happened. Dr. Helen Brooks, Earth's leading expert on human genetics, led the research team. She studied Maya's blood samples under powerful microscopes and ran genetic scans that revealed incredible changes. Commander Stone, Dr. Brooks said during one of their sessions, your DNA has been rewritten. Not damaged or mutated, but actually improved. It's as if someone took the human genetic code and optimized it for survival in a hostile universe. The plasma weapons triggered it, Maya explained. They were designed to destroy organic tissue by disrupting cellular structure. But instead of destroying my cells, they activated dormant genetic sequences that had been built into human biology millions of years ago. Dormant evolutionary responses? Dr. Brooks nodded. Earth is indeed a death world compared to most inhabited planets. Our ancestors survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plague, and countless other disasters. Each survival event left genetic markers in our DNA. And the Kitheran weapons activated all of them at once, Alex added. He had been working with Dr. Brooks to document Maya's transformation. Maya didn't just heal from the attack. She evolved to survive anything similar. The implications of Maya's transformation spread beyond Earth. Within weeks, word of the human who survived multiple plasma rifle hits reached every major civilization in the galaxy. The story grew with each telling, becoming legend among species who had thought they understood human limitations. The Kitheran Collective found themselves in an impossible position. They had tried to eliminate a threat quietly, but instead had created proof that humans were more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Other alien civilizations began questioning Kitheran judgment and asking why they had attacked a peaceful diplomatic mission. Velkhana stood before the collective leadership, his forearms moving in patterns of extreme distress. The human female has become something we cannot understand or control. Our most powerful weapons not only failed to kill her, but made her stronger. How many humans possess this ability? Asked Zarkef, the eldest member of the collective council. We do not. No, Velkhana admitted. But if even a small percentage of their species can undergo this transformation when threatened, then we have created the very threat we sought to eliminate, Zarkef finished. By attacking one human, we may have shown all humans what they are capable of becoming. Back on Earth, Maya spent her days working with researchers and diplomats to understand her new abilities. She could now interface with any technology she touched, understanding its function and operation instantly. Her physical strength had stabilized at levels that allowed her to bend steel with her bare hands. Her reflexes were so fast that she could dodge energy weapons fire, and her senses were sharp enough to detect ships approaching from millions of kilometers away. But perhaps most importantly, she had developed an ability to sense the emotional states and intentions of other living beings. Maya could tell when someone was lying, when they were afraid, or when they meant harm. It was this ability that made her most valuable to Earth's diplomatic corps. "You've become a living lie detector," Jake observed during one of their conversations. "No alien diplomat will ever be able to deceive you." "It's more than that," Maya said. "I can sense the deeper motivations behind what people say and do." The Kitherans weren't really afraid of human military power. They were afraid of human adaptability. They saw us as a species that could eventually outgrow the need for their guidance and control. And they were right, Lisa added. "Look what happened to you after just one attack. Imagine what humans might become after generations of adapting to galactic civilization." Maya nodded. "That's exactly what terrifies them. But it's also what makes us valuable. We don't just survive in hostile environments. We thrive in them. We become stronger, smarter, more capable." 3 months after the incident at the Kitheran station, Maya received an unexpected message. It was from Velkhana himself, transmitted through official diplomatic channels. "Commander Stone," the message began, "the Kitheran Collective wishes to extend an formal apology for the misunderstanding. That occurred during our previous meeting. We now realize that our actions were based on incomplete information about human capabilities." Maya read the rest of the message with growing amusement. The Kitherans were requesting a new meeting to discuss not just mining rights, but a full alliance between their species and humanity. They offered technology sharing, joint research projects, and mutual defense agreements. "They're scared," Jake said when Maya showed him the message. "Word has spread about what you became, and now they want humans as allies instead of enemies." "Smart choice," Lisa observed. "If one human can become immune to their weapons, imagine what an entire human military force could become if threatened." Maya drafted her response carefully. She accepted the meeting request, but made it clear that any future negotiations would take place on neutral ground with representatives from multiple species present. She also insisted that the Kitheran Collective publicly acknowledge their attack and explain their previous policies toward species they considered dangerous. Second meeting took place 6 months later on a space station controlled by the Galactic Trade Federation. Maya attended as Earth's chief negotiator, accompanied by a team of diplomats, scientists, and military advisors. When Velkhana saw her again, his reaction was immediate and obvious. All 4 of his arms began moving in rapid patterns that Maya's enhanced understanding recognized as expressions of awe and fear. "Commander Stone," Velkhana said through the translator, "you appear different than before." Maya smiled, and the glow in her eyes brightened slightly. "I am different. Your weapons changed me into something new, something that your people will never have to fear again, as long as you remember this lesson." "What lesson?" Velkhana asked quietly. "That humans don't seek to conquer or destroy," Maya replied. "We seek to survive and grow. When you tried to eliminate us as a threat, you only proved that we're not a threat to those who treat us with respect. But we become very dangerous to those who try to harm us." The negotiations that followed established new protocols for contact between humans and alien civilizations. The Kitheran Collective agreed to abandon their policy of preemptive threat elimination and to work with other species to develop peaceful solutions to interspecies conflicts. More importantly, they agreed to share the story of what had happened to Maya with every civilization in their sphere of influence. Word spread quickly. Humans were not to be attacked or threatened, not because they were weak, but because they became stronger when threatened. Maya returned to Earth as humanity's furs.